Take that. Hi guys, welcome here. My name is Shade. Many people do call me Shade. It's nice having you around when you join. Sorry, this time came a bit late for some people, and maybe it does not seem to be the best time for others. But then let's do this so that people can come around. Then they will have a feel of what it is. The people called trade workers in Australia and around the world are the people who possibly back at home do not know the weight they carry in the industrial world or in the industry world. These people possibly have learned their work through apprenticeship or gone to some institutions where they learn and they work with their hands. Welcome, our audience. Sorry, everything was not hanging together for a very long time, but I think we should be able to get things rolling now. So we are discussing how trade workers can migrate to Australia. And what I want to say is first thing, um, the people around who are trade workers, they do not seem to know or to appreciate their weight in the world of the industry. But countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia has made us to know that these are the bridges, the people that are there that make things happen. And if you or your spouse or your friend or family members have something related, you will be a very good fit for this journey called Australia. I'm sorry, my guest isn't tuning in today. He's been very, very under the weather. He actually made efforts. When I heard his voice, I knew that voice would not pull this. Many of you will not even hear what he was saying. So we are quite sorry, but he really wanted to. He wanted to force himself into it, but it wasn't really advisable for him to do it. Otherwise, it would just be like a comeback play for many people. But what I'm very handy with, especially when it comes to Australian migration, I will let people know so that you can tell it to people, and people who can afford to do these things, we go on ahead and do them. So if you are a trade worker, let me name you. You are a bricklayer, you are a carpenter, you are an hairdresser or barber, because here they group these people who make hair into that hairdresser things. So they will not just say barber separately, or even if you say barber separately, you are still an hairdresser. So if you're an hairdresser, you are a tailor, you are a pastry maker, like you bake cakes, you make donuts, you make puff puff and all those things. And people back at home, or you yourself, you are not even seeing yourself as someone big. All these first world countries, or sorry, let me not say first world countries, developed world countries, they actually place a very big value on such people. And maybe you are a mechanical engineer or you are in the engineering world, but possibly you learnt it. You are still well recognized. So what will you do? You need to do an assessment if you want to go to Australia. They need people. Just last week, or was it last 2 weeks, I saw 3 people that Australia invited on visa 189. And visa 189 is like their federal nomination pathway to Australia, so that you will know the weight you carry. And besides, I've seen someone who have gone to school to study engineering work and all those things. And when he was actually making effort to go into Australia, he couldn't pull through. He had to go and pull his what do they call it, like all those naptep trainings, like all those technical school trainings. You have to go and pull out his certificate for those ones, and those were the ones he used to get his Australian migration done with it. So if you've learned trade, hairdressers, I have a group that I created. I made a video about it some times ago, but I'm not sure whether the people in that group are working. Maybe possibly they want to see someone to share success stories, but these are the things we know that are really happening. and makes life easier for people. So if you are, what will you need to do if you fall into those groups? There are still others that I possibly will list them under this when the video is out. What you will need to do is to assess your documents. And how will you assess your document? There is a body called VetAccess in Australia. They are vocational training, vocational education training group, that assessment authority. And you will pull your documents together. You will bring your transcripts, you bring your certificates if you've gone to school, you bring your trade test certificates if you've gone to school. If you need to bring in all those things and create accounts for yourself. After creating the account, then put in your application. This application is expensive. Everything about migration is expensive. Australian migration is not really cheap, but I can tell you that you will get the best out of it if you are able to pull it and get it done. Now, this body will assess your document. They get 1,033 Australian dollars to do your assessment. They will let you know that your assessment will be ready in 20 weeks. But if you are able to pay for priority processing, then your assessment will be ready within 20 days. Priority processing, you will pay extra 803 Australian dollars or something like that for priority processing. So it's a big, big spending. That's running to close to 2,000 Australian dollars. If you don't have the money, just do the regular one, which your report will be out in 5 months. But if you have the money and you can use your money to buy peace of mind, 20 weeks and 20 days are they have big differences. And the big differences too could have impact, especially on migration, because the law that is in today might change in the next 3 months and the report might not be ready then. Or some people might be fortunate. The moment the reports are ready, then everything is just falling in for them correctly. So attach your documents. These days, you can actually attach your documents online. And I'm telling you, like about 3 or 4 months ago, people were still sending their documents through Korea, which actually, I mean, attaching online makes it easier and makes the things more capital compliant with many people. So if you attach all those things, send them on ahead and wait for your report to be ready. While you are waiting for your report to be ready, write your English test, because you definitely need English test to do your visa application. Australian visa application is expensive, but if you are going through permanent residency pathway, you can go with your family members. And we do advise you go with your family members, because I especially do your application with your family members, even if you cannot go in with them. It will be cheaper. For each main applicant, you'll be paying 4,000 Australian plus for as a main applicant. Then your spouse who is over 18 years, or your dependent who is over 18 years, you can actually add a dependent that is more than 18 years for Australian journey. Your dependent who is over 18 years will pay half of what you've paid, which is 2,000 plus Australian dollars. And your dependents that are less than 18 years, we pay a quarter of what you've paid, which is like 1,000 Australian dollars plus. So if you are able to get your assessment fixed, then you are good for the go. Now, documents you will need for your assessment, your certificate, everything you've used to apply for your application to VetAccess, which would be your training certificate. Let's assume you are an apprentice, you learn this work maybe through someone under the shop. The certificate your boss gave you when you've completed your training. Then the Ministry of Work, they have their trade test certificate. There's trade test 1, trade test 2, trade test 3, and ensure you get your transcripts from them too, because they are the body that the Nigerian authority has put to oversee everything about trade works. So you can approach them. You can go online and Google them and approach them, or you get a friend who have used them and get in touch with them and get those things done. And you will need your the statement of accounts that you've been receiving money into through the company you have. Your company will be there. The document for your company, that is CAC, your certificate of incorporation. You will add it to your application because they need to see that that company is alive and is viable. And it is always helpful if the company you are using for this have online presence, like you are on Facebook, you are on LinkedIn, you are on Instagram, you have something they can go to and they confirm that, okay, this person is not just cooking this story, this person is actually doing this job. So if you are self-employed, you will need your certificate of incorporation. You will need the receipt you've been giving out to people that are buying from you, people you are selling to, that you are selling your goods to. When you make sales, you issue receipts. You will need to attach those receipts. And the people you have been buying your goods from, you will need the receipts you've been receiving from them. All these things, you will add them together to make your application authentic. If you don't have them, I want to say the journey might really be very, very tedious for you to take, because it may end up in a sheer waste of money. We don't want that to happen. So you have to ensure you get those things fixed before you actually put in your application. All right. So the statement of account, not just the statement of account that is bearing your name, it must be bearing that company that you are using to do your assessment. It must bear their name. If it's not bearing their name, it's not going to fly it. We don't want you to put your money in there. Getting close to 2,000 Australian dollars in Naira is big. I can say that it's very big. For me, it's big. For some people, it might be easy. It might be very, very easy for people to come about. Otherwise, Otherwise, if you have those things, you are very good to go. If you don't have them, please, please and please don't waste this money. You can look for other pathways. You can go and study there, maybe through TAFE, or is it pathway, like those one are trainers of trade workers. I will even say you should do that if you don't have all your certificate, than to go and put money into this and waste money. If there's anything I don't want people to waste money and they come around to quote me that I said they should do it, and that was how they got their money wasted. So if you're able to pull all these things together, just go on BetterSense website, put in your application and apply. Of course, there are some trades that if you are doing them, you have to go outside to maybe India or South Africa to go and do practical before they will they will say you are fit. If you are in that one, maybe this might not be the best journey for you. Like if you're an electrical engineer now, you've learned it and you want to do this, you may need to go to Australia, to go to South Africa, to go to India for a practical session that you'll be assessed face to face. If that is it, if you need it, except you are very sure of yourself, this pathway might not be the easiest pathway for you. Except if you know you can do those things and you don't mind the cost, because definitely they will not pay for your visa application to those countries. They will not pay for your flights down to those countries. If you if that is you, if you're an electrical engineer, that is you. Please, this pathway might not be okay for you. But if you're a carpenter, if you're a bricklayer, I think plumbers too, we need to go to Australia for that assessment. If you're a plumber, you might not be fit for this. Mechanical engineers, you don't need to go outside there to go and do that. If you are taking the trade pathway, please and please just have a good look at all these things. The moment you are able to get your assessment and your assessment is positive, you are almost like 85% in Australia. If your assessment is positive and all the documents you use are genuine and they can be checked, they can be cross-checked to say, oh, that's right, then you are almost there in Australia. All you will need now would be to apply for, put in your expression of interest through Australian visa website, migration website, the one they call EMI account. You create email account at that stage, then you put in your details. After in your assessment, they will put the years of experience they think you have. And let me sound this: if you are applying for anything to assess, make sure you put all the years of experiences you've had. why am I saying that? Your years of experience will count towards how you will be assessed and given points. Australian migration is skill based, especially when you are not being nominated by an employer. But if you are going through the skill migration pathway, your age is important, your years of experience is important, the points you score in English test is important. Sometimes you may need your partner's points to boost your points. It is very, very important. And where you have your training is important. Now, let me break this into pieces. For age, if you are less than 25 years, you will not score anything too big for age. Like you will be scoring 25 points for age. If you are between 25 years and 32 years, and this is not just the age you have here, the age you have on your passport matters. So that age is, and it must correlate with your birth date or your affidavit, this one affidavit of your age. So if you are between 25 and 32 years, they believe that is the time you are most productive, you are strength, you are strong, you are agile, you are assertive, you can ask questions, you can jump up and down, you can do so many things, and the strength is there to do many things. You score 30 points for being between age 25 and 32. Once you are 32, you know, life starts creeping, you are having babies, you are having families for us around, your attentions are being, your attentions are wobbly. So things are taking your attention. Then your age, the point for your age drops from 30 to 25. So between 32 and 39 years, you'll be scoring 25 for age. Please write it somewhere because you need to do that calculation for yourself if you want to go through skill migration pathway. And once you clock 40, that thing drops. You drop straight to 15 points for age, and that will be between 40 and 44 years. The moment you clock 45 years, you cannot go through skill migration to Australia like skill migration pathway, but you may be fortunate to be nominated by an employer. So it will at this stage be your employer that will be fixing that for you. But if you are still within those age, don't joke with it. And your years of experience matters. Your years of experience, if you have 0 to 3 years of experience, that's 0.0. If you have 3 to 5 years of experience, that's 5 points. If you have 5 to 8 years of experience, that's 10 points. And if you have about 8 years and above, that's 15 points. Add it to if you are between 30, if you are between 25 and 32 years, that would be 30 plus, assuming you've worked for 8 years, plus 15 points. That's 45 points. Now comes to your degree or the certificate you are having. If you're an apprentice, you learned the trade, you will score 10 points for that. If you've gone to some universities in Nigeria, even if you have masters, if it is not PhD, then your universities you score 15 points. So like FUTA, like University of Ibadan, like Federal University of the Federal University of Technology, Abeokuta, OAU. There are some universities like that, that LAUTECH too is group among those ones. If you've gone to federal universities to take 4 years course, you will get 15 points. If you go to state universities to take 5 years course, you get 15 points. And that's the highest you can get for university degrees. If you have masters, you still get the same 15 points. So don't even worry yourself if it's not like you really need to add the masters, except if it is that masters that will make your skill assessment possible, because some masters are what makes some skill assessment possible. So if you have PhD, yeah, you will score 20 points. But if you have masters, you will still score the same 15 that someone who have degree from any of those universities I mentioned have. Now, assuming you are between 25 and 32 years, you score 30 points, and you've been practicing for 8 years and above, you score 15 points. That is giving you solid 45 points. And if you are able to pull in your degree now, 15 points, add it to the 45 you have on ground, that will give you 60 points. The moment you have 60 points, you need 5 points, because as at the moment, Australia is calling people that have 65 points to express interest for federal nomination pathway. But if you are going for a state nomination pathway, you are cool. You can just log into that state website, put in all the reports of your assessment that you have on you, and put them there. Then, like, you will need to create expression of interest for those different states. New South Wales, you create for them. Victoria is another state you create for them. Queensland is another state you create expression of interest for them. Southern Australia is another state you create expression of interest for them. Western Australian, you create expression of interest for them. Tasmania, you create expression of interest for them. Northern Territory is a territory on its own. You create expression of interest for them. Australia Capital Territory, you create expression of interest. You create them separately. So any state that is quick will nominate you. Once a state is giving you your nomination, you score 5 points automatically from that state. If you can score 5 points automatically from the state and they add it, since they are pulling people from 65, you may even be called within few hours. Like what happened to us, we're able to pull 60 points. Because age is like this on my side, I was just able to pull 55 points. And because my husband took English test too at some point, if your spouse can take English test and they can score above 5 in all the modules, then they can give you 5 points. Once they give you 5 points, you can still add it to your points to make you eligible. So I got 5 points from my husband and I added it to the 55 I had. That was how I was able to get 60 points. Now, I wouldn't have met up with either 190. I can't meet up with that one because if you have to meet up with um 190 without my husband's point, I won't be able. So I got 60 points and the state gave me 5 points. What happens in that instance is you have to go to that state morally and stay there and work there and pay taxes and do everything for a living for 2 years. They call it moral obligation. You have a moral obligation to stay in that state for 2 years. Once you are done for the 2 years, you can now move to any state in Australia. But then, if you are going through the federal nomination pathway, which I mentioned before, just get your visa. You just go. You go into any of the states that you like. So you don't have to, you have no moral obligation to any state to stay with them. You just go to the state that you love and live there, and then you'll be making your money and doing whatsoever you like. But then that's not the end of it. Even if you can't get up to that 65 points, if you can at least get 50 points, a region in Nigeria is like all those are very, very little stay. I mean, little towns around. Like if you're in Lagos, Mowe will be a region. So a region can nominate you. Once the region nominates you, they give you solid 15 points. And what you have to do in that instance is you have to live in that region that gave you that nomination for 4 years. And you will be like you are there working, you are getting your money. It's not reducing your money. Your money is not reduced from what someone who has 189 is reduced. In fact, I learned that the people in the regions are making better money than the people in the cities. So it's not reducing your money. Yeah, but you have a moral obligation to stay in that region for 4 years. So that is it. And I can tell you, there is none of those regions that are not habitable. And if it is snake that you are afraid of, if you watch my interviews with Uncle Charles, he told us that the only snake he had since he's been in Australia for 20 years were the ones he saw in zoo 8 years ago. He hasn't seen any face to face. So for those who are saying you go to Australia, they are playing around with crocodiles, they are playing around with anaconda, and that is why you don't want to go. Over to you. And that is why some people are saying it is UK. But at least if you've been following some YouTubers, you know that people are even running from, I mean, moving en masse from the UK to Australia. And I kid you not, it's beautiful. I've had people coming around to visit, and all right, maybe when I get there, I'll let you know how it looks. At least you can trust me with what I'm saying. So back to you queuing your point. That is how you bring in your points and get your nomination. Once you get your nomination, you are left with applying for visa. and you will need to do your medical test. They need to certify that you are good to go with your medicals. In Nigeria, we have our IOM doing that. We have Fatai Williams, and they just added another medical um uh, consultants. I can't remember. There is this hospital that our darling Dr. Adadevo was working when that unfortunate Ebola thing happened. That's the hospital. I think it's consultant clinic. I can't remember vividly, but they've added that to make life easier. So you can easily get your medicals done. And you know one beautiful thing again is if you are back in Nigeria, the moment you get your visa, you can get as much as 50% of your air flight fee cut off if you book through IOM. So put that in your left hand. Those are the things you need to get done to get your move to Australia easy as someone who is in trade world. If you have questions, pop your questions on the screen so I can answer you. Thank you guys for being here. Sorry we couldn't pull ATM in. ATM is under the weather. I'm praying you recover speedily, and once he recovers, he will be here live with us. He's always very happy to contribute to people's progress. We've been together for as far back as 2017 on top on Australia migration. 2017 on top Australia migration. So it's not too new to me. It's not strange to me. It's not someone that I cannot bank on his words. It was just that it happened that unfortunately he was trying to pull himself into it, but no, it won't fly. It's health is well. Questions, please. Otherwise, if no questions, I want to appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thank you for not losing faith in us. Then we come back around to it. On the YouTube channel, I will put the list of all those documents you need so that you can actually easily allude to them and pull things together. If you are struggling at any point, come back to me on the channel. If you want to make a private discussion, I'm not taking money now to give advice. I may be taking the nearest future, which I doubt, but as at the moment, I'm not taking money. Please come around, ask questions. We can get things fixed together. We want people to be free from agbado and cassava. If there's anything we want to do, that is one thing we want to do for ourselves. Thank you guys for being present. Thank you for the trust. Thank you for your patience. And I wish you a very beautiful time. Kindly drop on the video if you have preference of time that we should have our time together. Thanks, guys, and God bless you. I wait for 1 minute. Once it's 10 a.m., if there are no questions, then we can just say thank you and a happy new year. I wish you. Thanks, guys. No questions. No questions. No questions. Okay. Just waiting for to have a 10 a.m. Once there's no question at 10 a.m., then we can then go out. Thanks, guys. It's 10 a.m. Bye.